Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's Reading Public Library virtual reference class. Today we're going to be talking about building a resume, and what you'll need for this class is a computer, an internet connection, and an email address. So if at any point you think, wait, I don't have an email address, that's going to be something you want to take a look at. We can set that up for you. If you call the library, we can help you with that. Or we're going to be doing a series of classes. You can watch the class on how to set up an email address, and we can go from there. So again, thank you for joining the library today. My name is Jess Royer. I work at the reference desk at the Reading Public Library, and we can provide services on pretty much any technological question you have. So if some people come in with a computer, they ask for help using their own computer. Some people say, I want to set up an email address. We do a lot of that. Today, we're going to be focusing on writing a resume and doing a job search. And this is something that a lot of people are thinking about within the context of coronavirus, but also just in general. It's a good idea to keep your resume sort of up to date and polished. So in case you see an opportunity that you want to try and apply for, your resume is ready to go. So keeping that in mind, what we have at the library, if we were, if you wanted to come into the library and use our facilities, you can come into a computer, sit down, type up a resume in Microsoft Word or something like that. You can save it to a flash drive or email it to yourself so you can take it with you. That's a common and sort of a classic way of typing up a resume and writing it up that way. What we're going to be looking at today is using Indeed.com. It's a completely free website, and it has a couple of advantages. It has a resume builder, which we're going to walk through in a moment. It'll ask you your name, your education, relevant experience, and then at the end of all that, it'll format it for you. It's all free. It'll spit out a resume file that you can just print out and take with you, or email it to a job if you're applying electronically. And the added benefit after the resume builder is that once you've got that resume, you can download a copy for yourself, or you can save it in the Indeed system, and you can actually apply for jobs right there within the Indeed.com website. So I'm going to post in the chat the link to Indeed.com, and that's just what you're going to remember as far as the process for getting back to it. You want to go to Indeed.com. Now with us today, we have Daniel Egusquiza. He's going to translate some of what I just said into Spanish so that we can have a bilingual approach. I hope that I didn't give you too much to work with there, Daniel, but please take it away.
Thank you. Muy buenos días a todos los que nos están viendo. Esta es una clase hecha por la Biblioteca de Reading y esto es una de las clases que va a enseñar a Jesse, que trabaja en el departamento de referencia en la biblioteca, donde nos va a enseñar cómo coger o trabajar con un resumen, un currículum vitae, para solicitar trabajos. Y entonces el sitio donde va a utilizar es una página web, y esta página se llama indeed.com. Entonces esta página, ustedes para poder accederla van a tener que tener una computadora y una conexión de internet, y también van a necesitar una dirección de email. Entonces, si ustedes no tienen o no saben cómo sacar una dirección de email, ellos pueden ayudarle en la biblioteca, o si no, también vamos a producir otro video donde les vamos a enseñar cómo sacar una tarjeta de una dirección de email. Pues entonces, vamos a cederle el espacio a Jesse para que él les enseñe la manera de cómo hacer el resumen, el currículum vitae, y luego pues yo les estaré traduciendo. Back to you, Jeff.
Muchas gracias. All right, so we're going to step over to the internet now. I'm going to share my screen and go live, and you'll see that it's really quite easy to get into Indeed.com. Now you should be able to see my website. Now, this is the library homepage. And if you come into the library and use one of our computers, this homepage is what you'll see when you open up the internet on our computer. This is just the live internet. We're going to come up here to the address bar. I'm going to start with indeed.com. And then we're actually going to come back to this homepage, to the library page, a little bit later on. So Daniel, if you just want to mention the first step to getting to Indeed, open up a web browser and in the address bar, type in indeed.com.
Entonces, para empezar, lo primero que van a tener que hacer es conseguir o abrir uno de los browsers, de los buscadores para poder entrar a Internet. Y entonces, en la barra de dirección que él tiene ahorita abierta, van a escribir ustedes indeed.com. Y entonces está allí ahorita en la pantalla. Ustedes pueden ver cómo se escribe. Y luego de que escriben eso, le ponen search, le ponen enter, y entonces les va a llevar a esta página que acaba de abrir.
All right. So when you come to this page, the first thing you want to look for is the sign in button. I'm going to click sign in now. It's going to ask me how I want to sign in. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use my Google account, my Gmail account, to get signed in. So I'm going to click sign in with Google. I'm going to log into my Gmail account that I want to connect to this Indeed account. And then every time I come back to Indeed, I can just use my sign in with Google option, and that will get me in to the Indeed website.
Entonces, lo primero que ustedes van a necesitar una vez que se abra esta página es conectar o poner su dirección de internet, su correo electrónico, para que les pueda dar acceso a la página donde ustedes van a trabajar. Jesse ya tiene su dirección de internet, entonces él ya puede entrar automáticamente, pero para los que no tienen esa dirección de internet o no están todavía conectados en Indeed, entonces le va a llevar un poquito más poder conectarse.
Now, it was thinking about that while you were translating, and then it got a little hung up. So let me try this. I've never signed into Indeed on a Zoom call.
Como ustedes pueden ver, tenemos algunos problemitas tecnológicos, pero eso lo tiene todo el mundo.
So let's actually go completely live. I'm going to click create an account as though I didn't have a Gmail account, or if I missed that sign in with Google button. And I'm going to use my Gmail account, which is a free email account. There are lots of different email providers. I just prefer Gmail. I think it's the easiest one to work with.
Okay. Entonces, si es que ustedes nunca han entrado a Indeed, estos son los pasos que van a tener que hacer. Crear una cuenta nueva, ponen ahí su email address, ponen su password del email y luego hacen clic ahí diciendo que no son un robot y crean la cuenta. Tienen que dar esta paginita donde les dicen de que tienen que hacer clic a todas las chimeneas. Solo tienen muchos websites para asegurarse de que no son robots. Y entonces ya hemos entrado.
Okay. So it's loading now. Now this screen, you should all be able to see this. On my computer, I have two options here: upload your resume or build a new resume. If you have a printed resume already, sometimes people just want to sort of like import what they have. I usually start with build a new resume because even if you do the upload option, it still asks you to go through many of the same steps. So I'm just going to click build a new resume as though I'm just starting from scratch. Maybe I just graduated or I'm changing fields and I just want to just recalibrate my entire resume. So I'm going to build a new resume. Now they sent a link to my email. So I'm going to open that up just to confirm that my email belongs to a real human being. Indeed doesn't want a bunch of spam accounts floating around. So I'm going to click that, and I'm actually doing that on my phone. I'm clicking the confirm link. So that's not happening on screen. That's just a matter of clicking on the link. that they send to your email. I'm going to refresh this page and it should let me in now. Okay, so
Entonces,
this is what, go ahead, Daniel.
Entonces, lo que ha pasado es que una vez que abren ustedes la página, Indeed, el sitio de web les va a mandar un email confirmando de que el email que ustedes han utilizado para entrar en la página es obviamente el de ustedes. Entonces les van a mandar un email de confirmación. Lo único que tienen que hacer es entrar a su email, darle aceptar la confirmación y entonces les van a dejar entrar a esta página en donde Jesse está ahora.
So you see the first screen here, it's asking for my name, my location. There's a question here as far as eligibility. You can leave that blank if you don't want to select one of those, but it will be an issue later on. If you try and apply for a job, you'll probably need to fill out the information as far as your employment eligibility later on. I'll just leave it as not specified for now. Now it's asking for a phone number. I'm going to put mine in. I do suggest putting in a phone number simply because the employers that you apply to might want to be able to contact you by phone. I'm going to leave this box here. It says send me text messages at this number. I'm going to leave that unchecked. I don't want to be bombarded with text messages from Indeed, but I've done that first field. Now this is where it's going to walk me through building out the resume. So level of education. I'm going to say I have a bachelor's. I'm making this stuff up. I'm going to say that I have a bachelor's in philosophy. I don't have a bachelor's in philosophy. And I went to the University of Philosophy.
Entonces, como van ustedes viendo, el programa les está haciendo preguntas para que luego el programa mismo vaya y popule las opciones. Entonces, para el nivel de educación le ha preguntado qué nivel de educación tiene. Él está poniendo que tiene un bachillerato en filosofía y ha ido a la escuela de filosofía. Le va a preguntar la ciudad de la escuela. Él está poniendo que la ciudad es Reading. Y luego les está preguntando, obviamente, de cuándo a cuándo de la fecha en que empezaron a ir a tomar clases hasta la fecha en donde han terminado de tomar clases. So the system doesn't ask you if you have graduated yet.
Right. So there's a time period here. I can say if I'm still in the program that I'm filling out right now, and there will be an option. You can put in multiple programs. So you can put in high school, college. You could maybe be in grad school and you're still in your program. If you check this, I currently go here box, it will leave this, whatever listing you're working on, it'll leave that sort of open on the resume. I'm going to say that I graduated in 2014, and based on what I put in up top, it's saying that I already have a bachelor's degree in philosophy and I graduated in 2014. So they don't ask for a diploma, but the implication is that I'm done my program, I got my degree, and I'm out of it.
Entonces, lo que yo le pregunté es que si es que el sistema no les pregunta de si es que se han graduado ya, y entonces él me estaba explicando de que el sistema, si es que ustedes ponen de que tienen un bachillerato, entonces asume de que ya se han graduado.
Now I'm going to put in a high school listing as well. So you see this education up top? That's my bachelor's of philosophy. I'm going to put in my high school diploma, and I'm going to say that it was at Philosophy High School. This is, you'll see if you're putting in education, you have to put in what the level of education was, but you actually don't need to write a field of study. You don't need to write a school. You don't need to write a location. Indeed does not force you to put all that information in. I suggest filling it out as much as you're able, unless it's irrelevant to your job application or you, for some reason, don't want to say that. But it usually is a good idea to fill that out as much as possible so that a potential employer can get the information they need from that. But you'll see that there are some times where you don't need to fill everything in. Now, I've got two listings here. I've got my high school diploma at Philosophy High School and my bachelor's in philosophy up here at the top. So I'm going to be done with the education now. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to click next, and that should take us to the work experience. Now, as you may recall, I said that I graduated from my Bachelor's of Philosophy program in 2014. So I'm going to start working as a philosophy. I should have picked an easier word to spell. I keep misspelling philosophy. Assistant for, and I'm making, I'm taking some shortcuts here. Philosophy assistant at philosophy. Let's say the company name is We Love Thinking About Thinking. This is the company name where I worked. That's in Reading, PA. So I'm just putting in a job listing here that's going to show on my resume, and this is going to be my only work experience. When you're building out your resume, we always encourage you to put in, if you have volunteer experience that's relevant, put that down as work experience. It doesn't have to just be paid experience. So if you did an internship, say with a local neighborhood dance studio or community organization, you could put that down. If you worked part-time somewhere, you can put that down. You can put down anything you want as work experience. And it's a good idea to show that you're well-rounded, especially if the stuff that you're putting down as a volunteer position is relevant to the jobs that you're going to be applying for.
Entonces, lo que él está diciendo es de que tienen que tratar de llenar lo más posible en todas las opciones que les dan primero. Luego, ahora que está llenando la parte que es de trabajo laboral, entonces está poniendo el nombre del trabajo, su posición y el tiempo en donde estuvo trabajando, ¿no? Lo que él está diciéndole a la mayoría de las personas es de que trate de poner la experiencia, incluso así sea experiencia laboral que haya sido no remunerada, o sea, si es que han sido voluntarios para alguna organización o han estado trabajando part-time en alguna organización o algún negocio, entonces pongan allí la experiencia que han tenido, así sea que les han pagado poco o no les han pagado nada.
So I wrote down that I worked at this particular location as a philosophy assistant from 2014 to the present. That's my only work experience. So I'm going to scroll down here to the end. I'm going to click next. And that is really all you need to start a resume. You've got some education, you've got some work experience, and that's all you need. Now, it's asking me some questions which are going to help me build out my resume a little bit. So I'm going to say that, yes, I have experience with communications. I have some experience with teaching. I am going to add my own skill that they don't have listed. They've just given me some suggestions up at the top. I'm going to say that I'm also, I have a skill, I can do word processing. I'm going to say that I have publishing experience. Maybe I got an article published in a journal. So these are going to be skills that appear on my resume as well. I've got 4 skills in here. Again, you can write your own. They're going to give you some suggestions as well. I'm going to save those. And then we are going to, I think there's one more step before they give me the resume. So, okay, I think there's gonna be a preview. I've got the draft coming up here, and Indeed has taken the information that I've given and it's going to show just a rough layout. It's got my name, my location, contact information. And again, this will be only visible to the employers where you actually submit a job, but I always encourage you to put down contact information so that if an employer likes what you've got, they can get back in touch with you easily. You can see my work experience and my education. Now, if I'm looking at this and I think, oh, I want to add something else, you'll see this plus button right here. You can add anything at this point. You can add it later on down the road. You could download this and then add more later. So you have a lot of control over the way your resume is laid out. I don't need to do anything else right now. This is good. It's done. So I'm going to come over here and click the download as PDF option on the right-hand side of the screen. And this is going to give me, oh, now, hopefully this will show in the window right here. Can you guys give me a thumbs up once this opens? Can you see the resume opening? It should be visible on the screen. Okay, so you
Yep.
can see this is a basic resume, and it took actually probably about 4 minutes longer than I thought it would, but it took about 10 minutes. So you can see it's easy to get something down on paper. At a library, a lot of times we'll have somebody come in and they have a little bit of concern that they don't know how to use a computer. They're not good at typing. It's going to take them a long time. And it does take some people longer to do things than other people, but you can see how quick it is to fill out this resume. So that's one of the selling points of Indeed for sure, is how easy it is to get a formatted resume. And what I like about this resume is that it's clean, it's not complex, it's not like a bunch of different fonts or colors. Some people look at this and they say, oh, it's too basic. Now, if there was more work experience, if there was more education, it'll build out a resume and it will look more complete and a little bit fuller. But what I like about this is that it's clean, it's straightforward, and it's easy. It's easy to get that finished product pretty quickly. Was there anything you wanted to touch on there, Daniel?
Lo que voy a decir simplemente es de que entonces una vez que el resumen es populado, lo bajan como un PDF y entonces mantiene ya la forma que les estaba enseñando. Y puede ser, o sea, un resumen que sea simple, o puede ser un resumen que sea completamente lleno porque tiene mucha más experiencia de trabajo y de estudio.
Okay, so now I'm back on Indeed. I'm going to click over here on the left where it says Find Jobs. And because I'm logged in and because I created my Indeed resume already, when I find a job, you'll see it's going to be super easy for me to apply for it. Now, I'm obviously not going to apply because I like my job working at the library and I'm not looking to become a philosophy assistant anywhere. I'm going to put in customer service here in the what field. In the where field, I've got Reading, PA. I'm going to click Find Jobs. And it's probably going to list, I'm guessing, it's going to list a couple hundred jobs. Okay, so it shows me here, page 1 of 221. So there are 221 pages of jobs which come up with customer service as a keyword. Now, as I scroll down this list, I'm going to find one that I like, and you'll see a lot of these have, there's a little blue arrow here in the middle, and it says apply with your Indeed resume. And that's going to be your cue to know that all you've got to do is click apply. So here's one, commercial lines customer service representative. That's the job that MGS Insurance Agency is hiring for in Reading, PA. It actually lists the salary, $25 to $40 an hour. It's pretty good for working on customer service. It's just going to show you the requirements. They're looking for somebody with a high school diploma. They want somebody with 3 years of commercial insurance experience. Now, my application here might not go to the top of the pile because I don't have that. But say I wanted to put this application in. I click apply with your Indeed resume. It's going to give me the option of typing up a little cover letter. Oh, so here's the full listing of the job. It shows all the benefits. It shows the schedule. It shows what they need you to have as experience. If I click apply now, I don't think it's going to apply quite yet. I hope not. I think there's one more screen. In the traditional job search experience, if you're going to submit a job, you want to fill out a cover letter and send it to them along with your resume. Here on Indeed, they're going to ask you for all of the information they need from you right now. So they're asking me about the experience that I don't actually have. I'd fill that in. They're asking me to confirm the education and whether or not I'm licensed, and then you can submit it right there through Indeed. There's also a box where right before you click submit, there's just a little paragraph where you can type out a little cover letter. And in the cover letter, you just say who you are and why you think you'd be a good fit for the position. It's basically like a chance for you to use regular words to communicate what the resume should communicate in a more professional sense. So the cover letter it's technically optional, but it's a good idea because it gives you a chance to show a little bit of personality where you can it doesn't need to be extensive. Just write a brief introduction of yourself in normal language that the employer will see when they get your resume. Daniel?
Yep. Entonces, como les ha enseñado ahora Jesse, la manera de aplicar a un trabajo es primero buscan el trabajo, él puso Customer Service, luego buscó en Reading, Pennsylvania, que es donde estamos ahorita, y luego aplicó para el trabajo. Es recomendable cuando están buscando el trabajo y tratando de aplicar, de que escriban una carta de presentación, que no debe ser una carta muy larga, pero de todas maneras en esa carta, de la manera en que ustedes escriben o lo que ustedes dicen en la carta, pues demuestra su personalidad, que es una de las cosas muy importantes que están buscando los empleadores.
Okay, so that is the whole Indeed process. In the last 20 minutes, I created an account on Indeed. I created a basic resume on Indeed, and I almost applied for a job on Indeed in 20 minutes. Once you get a feel for it, so when you're working through a job search, a lot of times you'll hear somebody say that when you're unemployed, your job is to find a job. So you're probably going to be putting in a few hours a day where you sit down, you really look for jobs that you like, and you submit applications to them. Now, once you get a feel for that, you'll be able to work through job applications very quickly, especially if you're using a website like Indeed. And Indeed is not the only one. There are others out there as well. Indeed is the one that we recommend at the library because it's the most user-friendly, in our opinion. But you can do this the old-fashioned way, where you are sending emails, where you send a cover letter and a copy of your resume. But if you do it on Indeed, you'll see it goes pretty quick. Now, I jumped back over here to the library homepage, and I want to draw your attention to this job search button here. This is a page that we keep up to date on the library website. It is constantly updated with different job boards and different companies in the area that may or may not be hiring. There are two main columns of information here. On the left-hand side, we've got find local jobs. That's going to be job boards that list jobs that you can sort locally. So the Reading Eagle, obviously that one's going to be very specifically local, but you see Indeed here. CareerLink is one that if you are working and you want to have assistance, there are actual state employees that can help you with that as well. And they will sit down and walk you through the process. Craigslist is a classic website. They have jobs there. If you want to look for local jobs just generally in the state, we have some job boards here that are going to be state-based. If you want to look for jobs that are all over the country, we've got a list here of job boards that will really go all across the country, and in some cases all over the world. That's this section here. We've got some job boards that are going to be a little bit more specific. If you want to find a government job, here's a link to the Berks County website. Here's a link to the state of Pennsylvania website. Here's a link to the city of Reading website, where they will all list their own jobs. For federal government jobs, we've got several job boards here. Career centers, if you're a graduate of a local school, you might actually have some options available to you through RAC, Penn State Berks, Kutztown, Alvernia, Albright. So this section here, you might want to take a look at if you're a local college graduate. Disability, employment support. I think there's one for seniors and retirees, ex-offenders, immigrants. There are going to be any number of jobs which are available to you if you're bilingual, if you're coming out of the service and you're a military or a veteran. So you get a sense as to, okay, here's some Spanish language jobs in specific, teens and hourly employments. If you're looking for something fresh out of high school, there are going to be any number of different job boards here that you kind of want to keep in mind, where if you stall out and you don't know what you want to look for, come over here to the job board and take a look. Now on the right-hand side, these are going to be local employers that have a careers page. And this list is extensive and constantly updated. It's alphabetically ordered. On the right-hand side is where I'm looking. You'll see these are all local employers. I'm going to just click on one randomly. I'm going to click on Liquid Interactive. I actually have never even heard of Liquid Interactive. It's going to take us to the website. And on this, so this is a local company. On this site, you're going to want to look for, usually there's like a jobs or a careers or an employment page. You kind of want to dig around. And when you're working through your job search, you'll get used to looking for these types of pages. Oftentimes it's in the About section. I don't see it here. I'm going to check the very bottom of the page is also sometimes where they will list. Okay, so down here on the left-hand side, there's a careers section. Now this is up in Allentown. You can see the address here, but say you're really interested in doing, marketing, technology, and you come across this Liquid website. what you're going to want to look for is this careers page. And that's going to be where they list any jobs that are currently open. And a lot of times, even if, okay, I was going to say, even if they're not currently hiring, they might be looking for applications anyway. Right here it says, we're always looking for liquid people. So when you're looking around for jobs, if you're kind of stuck or you need some inspiration, take a look at this Berk's online job site, scroll through this list of websites. And a lot of times the link that we have here to a local employer will show you, it'll take you straight to the careers page for that site. So it's just a resource to keep in mind that when you're looking for jobs, you can access this from anywhere that you have an interconnection. You don't need to come into the library, but I'm going to go back to the home page here and show you where the job search tab is. Right down here on the left-hand side, there's a purple job search button that will take you to that page, which lists job boards and local employers. So that's real quick. That's 25 minutes of creating an account, creating a resume, applying for a job, and doing a job search on the Reading Public Library website. It doesn't need to be a complicated process, but if you've got the time, if you're unemployed, or if you're really looking to make a jump into a new field, you can spend more time working on it and dress up your resume a little bit, get a little bit more detailed with your experience. You'll see I have my resume open here. I didn't really put much down as far as the description of the work that I did under my role as a philosophy assistant. I just have one line here. You can actually list every single responsibility you had at a job to sort of build out your profile. You can list other volunteer experiences. You can list other skills. You definitely want to mention if you're bilingual, especially in Reading, there are going to be a lot of opportunities where that bilingual is going to be a real asset. I'm going to pause there and let Daniel kind of give an overview of just the library job board that I talked about. And then Fabiola and Stephanie, if you guys have any questions, feel free to either post them in the chat or you can unmute yourself in a moment once Daniel's done with the overview, and I'll be glad to try and address those.
So, rápidamente lo que le voy a decir es, en esta página de la biblioteca de Reading, en esta parte de aquí abajo, donde dice Job Search, ahí es donde ustedes hacen clic y les va a abrir la siguiente página, esta que está abriendo Jesse ahora. Y entonces, en esta página es donde ustedes van a poder ver las diferentes clases de trabajos que están siendo ofrecidas. Entonces, esta página la revisan los trabajadores de referencia y la populan, me parece, you guys refresh this or go through it often, right? So that it's not outdated. Oh, you're muted, Jesse, sorry.
That's embarrassing. Yeah, it's constantly updated. And if you find an employer that you want us to add, let us know at the reference desk, because this is a live page. We're constantly updating it.
So, ellos constantemente están revisando esta página y entonces, como ustedes pueden ver, está diferenciada en diferentes categorías. Una de las categorías es trabajos solamente aquí en Berks County, luego en toda Pensilvania, luego en todo Estados Unidos o el mundo. Hay también categorías para diferentes clases de trabajo. Me parece que estaban viendo abajo hay una categoría para veteranos, trabajos en el gobierno, trabajos para personas con deshabilidades, diferentes clases de categorías, ¿no? Trabajar para las diferentes universidades, etcétera, etcétera. Y en el lado derecho pueden ver ustedes todas las compañías que trabajan aquí en Berks County que están siendo enlistadas en orden alfabético. Entonces, como él estuvo enseñando allí, hacen clic en una de las compañías y entonces se ponen a buscar donde dicen carreras, o hay algunas páginas donde dice trabajos, employment, o hay algunas páginas que dicen que pueden ustedes entrar a buscar trabajo, ¿no? Entonces, van a esa página y pues se encuentran ahí con diferentes opciones de posiciones que tienen las compañías para trabajo, ¿no? Entonces, él está todavía enseñando en esta página todas las clases de trabajos que existen, ya sea tiempo completo o trabajos part-time. Entonces, incluso hay trabajos donde necesitan o están buscando gente que solamente hable español, como tienen allí el Centro Hispano y el Spanish Healthcare Job Videos, etcétera, etcétera, ¿no? Pueden ustedes allí pues pasar días y estar trabajando simplemente en buscar un trabajo. Y otra de las cosas muy importantes que Jesse comentó es de que si es que ustedes tienen alguna pregunta para hacer que su resumen sea mejor y sea más competitivo, pues entonces pueden traérselo a la biblioteca y preguntarles y ellos les pueden ayudar a mejorarlo. Back to you, Jesse.
All right, thank you. Yes, so that's the quick and dirty overview of writing a resume, getting into the job search. We're always glad to help you at the library. We have computers there, so you can come in and sit down and just spend an hour and a half or more working on that in the library, or you can do this all from home. If you've got internet connection, or if you want to take it to a coffee shop, you can do it there. So that's the overview I've got. Fabiola or Stephanie, do you guys have any questions right now that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend when you have no experience whatsoever?
Yeah, and that's going to be an issue. I know a lot of people, they're focused on extracurricular activities in high school, and they come out and they've never worked a job while they're in high school. They haven't gone to college. They don't know what they want to do. They're just trying to get a job without any experience. That's going to be the case that, at some point, everybody in their life has no experience. But when you think about it, you're going to have skills. It could be, starting point could be that you're bilingual. A starting point could be that you know how to just talk to somebody in a friendly manner. So maybe you want to start with a customer service job that gives you some paid work experience where you're actually going to develop other professionally marketable skills as well, where maybe you're going to start out just answering the phones and answering basic questions for somebody. Then they're going to move you into a management role because you've done such a good job. You're going to manage a team of 2 or 3 people who answer the phones, and suddenly you're developing management skills. Or maybe you're going to work at a restaurant, and the first thing you're doing is just working the cash register as people buy their food at a counter service place, and you don't have to prepare any food, you don't have to wait on anybody, you're just handling money. Well, all of a sudden you've got money handling experience, and that's going to be a marketable skill once you can show how to balance a cash register and deal with people who walk up to you and ask questions, and you will just slowly develop experience. As far as what you put on your resume, I would put down interpersonal skills. So if you're patient, if you're hardworking, if you're punctual, if you're always on time, you can build out a resume with skills that make it clear you're looking to develop your work experience, but you don't have any yet. But once you start thinking about the things that have gotten you to wherever you are in life, you will absolutely have skills that are going to be valuable to some employer. You just need to figure out how to match up the job with the employer with what you are going to be able to bring to the table. And that's why it can be important to think about extracurricular activities. Maybe you volunteered at school with some after school program where you help younger students with their homework. That's a tutoring experience. You can sort of expand on something you might not think was that big a deal and use it to sort of point yourself in a direction which could be helpful. So what I'm trying to say is you might need to be creative sometimes with how you sort of develop and how you present yourself. When you're doing a job search, you have to be like your own cheerleader, and you have to market yourself in a way that talks about what you can bring to that employer, even if you might look at your resume and say, well, I've never had a real job, or I've never worked anywhere and gotten paid. There's going to be something you have that is marketable and is going to make you a good candidate.
And my other question was, when choosing an employer, what should you take account?
I'm sorry, when choosing a what?
When choosing an employer, what should you take account?
Yeah, now, one thing I want to mention, when you get a job interview, the expectation is that they're going to ask you questions which you have to answer to prove that you're a good fit for them. but the job interview is also an opportunity for you to interview them. And that's something that you want to keep in mind, that when you're looking for a job, like you said, what kind of employer, you want to think about, where do you want to work? Like the first question to ask might be, what do I want to do with my life? The philosophy assistant that I created earlier, that might be a good person to talk to as far as figuring out what your direction is going to be in the world. But in the meantime, like, what do you like doing? Do you like working with people, or do you not like working with people? Do you like working with plants? Maybe you want to try and find a job at a greenhouse or a nursery. Maybe you like working with kids. You want to work at a daycare or like a child nursery where you want to help take care of kids. So what you want to do should inform your job search. But then once you have an idea as to what type of job you want to look for, you're going to want to consider what type of employer those jobs are going to be at. And you can do your research on employers based on reviews online. There's another website called Glassdoor where people can actually post reviews of an employer somewhere they've worked before. You can look for news articles about an employer. In Berks County, there's often a list published every year of like the best employers to work for. So you might be able to find other people who have said, I love my job. It's so great working here. I've been here 15 years. You might also find people just word of mouth that say, oh, don't ever go work for them. The turnover rate is high. Nobody lasts more than a couple months there. And that's going to be a red flag that you don't want to end up at that employer. Does that kind of answer your question as far as like how to think about the employer that you're looking for?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Yeah, and that's an important consideration because it's good to get paid with respect to like paying your bills, but it's also good to like care about what you're doing. So you want to make sure that you're a good fit for the employer, but also that the employer and the workplace and your coworkers are a good fit for you. Definitely something you want to keep in mind. But those are good questions. That's definitely something you want to think about. Is there anything else that you guys have on your mind right now about job searching?
You have any more questions? On Indeed, can you also find internships and part-time jobs?
Yeah, now you can list those as work experience and not mention that they were unpaid, or not mention that it was considered an internship. Or you can specifically say in the experience section, you might give your title and then write internship. Or maybe your title was just office intern, where you can mention in the listing, this was not a paid professional position. It was just an internship. Um, as somebody who does a little bit of like job search help, I don't usually suggest unpaid internships as something you want to try and find your way into, because it's really, you're giving a lot of yourself without getting anything more than experience in return. But it's a good way to sort of build out your professional profile. If you don't have any experience and you just want to get into an office, well, an unpaid internship would certainly do that. Now, if you can get a paid internship or a part-time job, definitely list those on your resume as well, because they are going to inform you as who you are as an employee. They're going to help you develop time management skills and develop an awareness of workplace culture that is going to be helpful for you later on down the road. Yeah. So that's sort of the general overview. We talked about building a resume. We talked about doing a job search. Remember, the library website is a resource where if you have questions about what's available in the area, you can check that out. I posted in the chat the phone number for the reference desk. If you're listening to this the recording later on down the road, call the reference desk at 610-655-6355, and we can help you with the job search process. We can help you get set up, and we're always glad to try and take somebody from the beginning stages of a job search to the point where they don't come back into the library anymore because they got their job and they don't need to be searching anymore. That's something that feels really gratifying for us. Thank you for your time. Daniel, is there anything else you think we need to touch on?
Nothing, solamente decir de que si es que ustedes tienen alguna pregunta, por favor, acercarse a la biblioteca de Reading. Como ya vieron, pueden ustedes conseguir ayuda allí, o si no, llamar al departamento de referencia en la biblioteca. El número de la biblioteca es 610-655-6355. Nuevamente, el número de la la biblioteca es 610-655-6355 y también lo pondremos en el video para que ustedes puedan revisarlo y accederlo más fácilmente.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to sign off now, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hasta luego.